So let's talk about some great trades in history, some trillion-dollar trades. The Dutch understood naval power. They understood ships. They had thousands of them. They bought the best port in the New World for a couple of $100 in plastic and textile trinkets. And that's worth $2.5 trillion today. Okay? It was an investment that's returned 6% for 398 years straight. It's a 10.5 billion X return. And if you think about it, you're like, why would I actually give up the best port in America for a bunch of textiles and plastic and glass? But the people that sold the thing to them didn't understand naval power. If you don't appreciate the reason you're going to want the property, you won't value the property. Napoleon wanted to gallivant across the old world, and Jefferson wanted to expand in the new world. So France sells Louisiana to the U.S. for $15 million in 1803. The $15 million probably lasted a few months fueling the French army. It's gone. Jefferson got that. He got 27% of the United States. It's an 800,000x return. Worth 12 trillion or more. It'll be worth more. Jefferson had some vision, as did this man. Seward pays $7 million for Alaska 2 years after the country's decimated by the Civil War. John D. Rockefeller is trying to start an oil company. Today, there's $1 trillion of oil underneath Alaska. It's a massive return for a piece of paper. How much is digital capital worth? Take the $450 trillion, multiply by 3%. That's your entropy cost or your inflation cost. It costs the world $13.5 billion a year to take all of those parade of horribles when they're trying to preserve their wealth. If you put a 20 P to E on it, like you'd value a company or a long-duration bond, that's worth $270 trillion. So digital capital is worth 10, 20, 15 trillion a year, and is worth hundreds of trillions of dollars. Reality check. Is he full of BS? Well, digital capital is returning 55% for the past 4 years. Financial capital, the best in the world, is the bond. It's minus 5%. Imagine capitalizing your company or your country on a minus 5% instead of a plus 55%. It's obviously working. And now let's come back to my chart here. Global wealth, we can look at it like this, and we see the little Bitcoin, square in the left corner. But what's happening? Here's my macro Bitcoin forecast. It's 21 years. Goes out to the year 2045. What do I think will happen? Well, I've got a bear case and a bull case, but what I think will happen is that 55% ARR goes to 50%, 45, 40, 35, 30, 25, 20. It's between 50 and 20. It'll gradually decelerate till it's growing about twice as fast as the S&P index. And at that rate, Bitcoin's $13 million a coin in the year 2045. 13 million. It could be a 3 million bear case. It could be a 49 million bull case. But what is Bitcoin? 7% of the world's assets then. What about the rest of the assets? Well, I actually think that AIs and technology are going to revolutionize tech. We had no companies worth $1 trillion. Then we had a bunch of $1 trillion companies. You're going to see more because you're going to see companies with 100,000 AIs and no employees, and they're going to do the work of companies that used to have 100,000 employees. You're going to see mega corps develop, shipping robots and self-driving cars, and a company that gives a personal physician to 1 billion people without any doctors on the payroll. So clearly, equity is going to grow fast. Gold's going to get demonetized. Land will be less monetized. But look, here's the future in 2045. Doesn't look that revolutionary. It looks like today. It's just that Bitcoin is visible on the chart to you. When Bitcoin is visible, that's going to be the base case. Now, what are the implications of this? How do you make money? Well, let's talk about individual Bitcoin strategy. What should you do? Make Bitcoin your primary treasury asset. Convert your excess earnings to Bitcoin. Utilize subsidized credit. If the government will loan you money, borrow the money at cheap rates and buy Bitcoin, and find a tax-efficient way to invest the Bitcoin. What shouldn't you do? Don't quit your day job. Don't lose your focus on Bitcoin. Don't use margin loans and trade with leverage. You get wiped out while you're asleep on a Saturday night. That's not good. Good? 30-year loan for 3% backed by the government on your land. Bad? Overnight 10x leverage. So what's a typical person? Well, we actually model an individual, and we said, what if you had $750,000 in net assets, and you made $200,000 a year, and you're going to make 5% more every year, and you got a savings rate of 25%, and you can invest $50,000 a year. Well, there's a lot of strategies. You could be the normie and do a normal strategy, diversified portfolio. You can be a 10%er, and you can put 10% of your assets into Bitcoin. You can be a BTC maxi and put 80% of your assets and put 80% of your earnings into Bitcoin. You could be a double maxi, and that's when you basically take an extra $250,000 loan against the house. And then the triple maxi is you finance the house for Bitcoin, you buy Bitcoin, you flip all your assets to Bitcoin, and then you move to a cheap tax jurisdiction where you actually can avoid some taxes and invest an extra $50,000 in Bitcoin, maybe a Singapore or UAE or something. What's the result? Well, this is the result. The normie ends up with $8 million in 21 years. The 10%er will more than double that. The maxi ends up with $100 million. The double maxi, $150. The triple maxi, $214 million. You can see the power of leverage, and the choice is yours. And you can also see, it takes 15.9 Bitcoin to be a triple maxi. 6.25 Bitcoin will make you a wealthy person.